Hi friends. It is a beautiful Sunday afternoon here in Calgary, and normally I'd be out skiing, but I have a bit of a cold, so I'm going to be fixing some bugs on the GenFu project instead. Well, hopefully fixing them. First thing we're going to do is just kind of take a look at our backlog of... 1 second here. Sorry about that. I am back now. Alright, so as I was saying, we're going to take a look at the backlog of bugs on the GenFu project and see if there are any bugs that we can fix. So, over in GitHub here, I know I have this one bug tagged for sure that's just been sitting there for a while. I'm not sure if it's still a bug, so the first thing will be just to take a look at that, see if we can reproduce it, and if so, we'll try to fix it, otherwise we'll just close that bug. So here we have Colin has logged a bug saying that generating data for a daytime offset picks a random data at first and then reuses it every time. Has a helpful little repro here, so let's just pull down the repo and we'll see if we can reproduce that error. First thing to do will be make sure we have the latest code. Looks like we're good, so we'll just open up the solution. In Visual Studio. And let's take a look if we already maybe have a test for this. So under, I wonder where that would be. GenFu tests, I think, is where we have the bulk of our stuff. So fills date time. We do have a test here that checks to make sure that the time that was provided is greater than the minimum time. But let's see here. So time since last bath is a daytime offset on the person class. And I guess what I'm going to do here is just put in a breakpoint. We're going to generate a list of 200 persons, and I'm going to inspect the last daytime bath. I'm just going to debug this test here just to see if it actually is still happening or if it's something that was fixed accidentally already. I say fixed accidentally because there's a number of bugs that I fixed recently that were kind of manifested in a lot of different ways. So let's see if this is one of those. Here's our list of people. Where's that? Time since last bath is December 13th, 1972, 10:13 a.m. And I guess what the bug was saying is that it ends up being the same value every time. And no, that looks like that is in fact not the case anymore. Yeah, these look like different values every time, so what I'm going to do is just expand this out. And just make sure that it's actually giving it different values every time. So I'm just going to generate maybe 10 of them, and then I'm going to say, how would I do this to make sure that they're all distinct? I could select the... I think what I'm going to do is format that date in a certain way, and then just make sure that when I do a distinct, that I still have 10 different values in there. So I would say formatted dates call this our people. So my time since last bath, I'm going to do a toString on that using, I always have to look these up, but there's datetime formats in .NET. Not the comp, I want the standard ones. So what I want to see is that the full date and the time is unique. So if I do something like G, I think would be a good pattern to use. And then what I'm going to do is say my unique dates is formatted dates dot distinct. And then what I want to do is assert that the count of on the unique dates is equal to 10. So if we had duplicates in there, it would there we go. We'd have fewer than 10, and this test would fail. Now we don't actually have anything within GenFu that enforces that distinct values are generated. That's why I'm not doing like a really large list, because if I do a really big list, there is a chance that we might end up with a duplicate. But this should be safe enough in terms of ensuring that this bug it doesn't get reintroduced somehow. So I'm just going to go run this test. Oh, and it ran. I looked away for a second, thought it was still running. There we go. Okay, so that seems to be fine. I might as well check in this bug fix and then I'll close that bug. So I'm just going to come into my command prompt here and create a branch for this. So that will be git checkout -b. What was this bug? Number 138. New test to verify date time offset bug is fixed. Okay. I didn't actually add the file there. It wasn't in the root folder when I did a git add, and this always trips me up with our GenFu project. We have source and test in different folders, which is I find that a little bit odd actually, but let's just go back and do the git add, and the git commit again, and then the git push. That code will be up on GitHub. What we should see, because we added those that GitHub actions for our CI build, it should go and run a new build for the pull request, I think, once I create one. That should trigger a build. There it goes, it's queued up. Watch that run. Should be pretty quick. I don't think we do anything other than just compile and run the tests. That's a pretty quick build in general. While we're waiting for that, let's just have a look at, okay, so that's going to be this one. Added test This was fixed in a previous build, a previous release. I'm just going to go ahead and close that. Let's go see if that build has succeeded yet. Is compiling. If you have any questions as we go along, don't hesitate to ask in the chat. Keeping an eye on that as we go. Here we go, we're running the tests. Completed. Excellent. So we can actually come in here now and we can rebase and merge. Alright, slowly chipping away at this backlog. Okay, now there was a issue logged a while ago here saying, is there a way to just ignore a field that we don't want filled, like ever? And somebody actually submitted a PR for this. Abdul, I believe it is. Yes. So let's take a look at that PR actually and just see what we think of that. So what are the changes introduced here? We have ignore property collection. Okay, so when we're configuring, there's now the ability to ignore a field. And when we ignore a field, we add it to that list of ignored properties. And yeah, I mean, this seems reasonable. The main thing that I would really need to look closely at, and I'll have to pull the code down. I'm not going to do that on the stream here, but I'd like to really review the lock in here, the reader-writer lock, make sure that we have that all set up properly to make sure that any concurrent code that's running against GenFu doesn't break this somehow, because we've had a lot of issues with that with our regular property configurations. I just want to make sure. Looks like it's using the same pattern, so it should be fine. But I really want to pull this code down and make sure that I understand it. But this looks like a reasonable approach, so I'll hopefully do that soon and we can get that pulled into our future release. So thank you very much, Abdul, for the pull request. And I'm sorry it's taken me so long to have a look at it. Okay, do we have any other bugs we can take a look at here? We have these race conditions are exactly those issues that I was talking about. I think those are all fixed. Again, I'm not going to necessarily get into it here. But yeah, I think that might actually be the only ones that we really need to that are still outstanding bugs. Order of class property definition affects filter results. Okay, this one's kind of interesting. Oh yeah. Yeah, that is an issue. It's probably a little bit hard to see. Let me zoom in. This one I don't have a solution for, unfortunately, but if you configure a title, for example, to be filled a certain way, and then you later on configure another property to be filled using a method, so this is where you give it a method to tell it how you want to fill that particular value, you can use that to, here what we're trying to do is set the slug equal to the title, but if the title and slug are ordered in a certain way here, then the title hasn't been filled yet when we go to fill the slug, so we end up with an empty slug. Yeah, I really don't know a really good solution for that. It has to do with the way we're going through and filling that. James had mentioned that a while ago. So what else can we take a look at today? Oh, I did want to review, I think I did this kind of off stream, so we had created a CI build. I think we did that on stream. So the CI build is the one that goes and runs these tests every time we commit code and every time a PR, commit code to master and when a PR has been built. I also created one to do releases. So every time I go into the releases section here and I create a new release, that triggers a build that goes and generates a NuGet package, and that NuGet package goes and links right back to the release notes, which is really nice. So if we go to NuGet, we search for GenFu, you can see that release 1.6 here, the most recent one, has a link back to the release notes in GitHub, and you can see exactly what changes were in it. And the way I did that, I actually have a video scheduled in 2 weeks where we go through this for another project. But just real quickly, I can take you through it here. And what we do is there's a release workflow defined, and it just has a couple of tasks. One is, we set up to use .NET, and then we use .NET Pack to create a new nupkg, the NUPKG file. And we give it the version I pull from the release tag name that we just created. And then this is how I link it back to the release notes here. I'll just zoom in a bit so that you can see this. Here we have the package release notes as just a parameter that I pass in, and that's where I link back again to that release that we just created in GitHub, the release that triggered this build, this workflow. And then I'm not actually doing the push to NuGet here. I'm just archiving it as a file that's tied to this particular workflow run. And then I did a manual push to NuGet, but in that video that I publish next week, or in 2 weeks, I go through the actual step of uploading that to pushing that to NuGet. So that's kind of nice to just have that all linked together, and it streamlines our release workflow. So that's something I did offline. Wasn't able to connect to stream that one as I was working through it, but I do have some videos on the YouTube Asp.Net Monsters channel walking through how that's all set up, and then also adding these nice badges here. So one for the continuous integration build, and then another one just linking to the latest GitHub and showing how many downloads there are or latest NuGet package, showing how many downloads there are for it. So I think it's a short stream today, but that's really kind of all I had time to run through today, and I kind of thought there were going to be more bugs that we would actually fix as opposed to just writing a test and closing a ticket, but it's always nice to close an issue, so that's just one more bug that's not sitting there kind of nagging me in the back of my mind on our GitHub repo. So throat's getting a little bit sore, and I think I'm gonna cut it a little bit short and end right now, but I'll hopefully be better soon and doing some more streaming. We'll see you next time.